The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is tasked with the responsibility of formulating and implementing policies and programs to attract investment, boost industrialization, and create an enabling environment to stimulate domestic investment and attract foreign direct investment. Well, joining me on the show today is the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment in Nigeria, Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite, to review activities of the ministry so far. I must thank you so very much for your time, Honorable Minister. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Tolu. How are you?
Very well. Yes, very well. It's good to have you, Ma. Now, the renewed hope agenda, of course, of President Bola Tinubu focuses on economy and industry, of course, other sectors. But that is very key to pull our economy out of where we are at the moment. I want to ask you, I know a lot has been done. Can you highlight some major points? What has happened in recent times? A lot of trips, foreign investments, commitments, and all of that. Where are we at the moment before we now understand some policies that we can institute to move forward?
Thank you for the question. We've done so much. So I will take it pillar by pillar. In the area of investment, we've attracted over 30 billion in investment commitments. We are also working to increase the capital formation for small businesses and the private sector. In the area of trade, we've actually landed a landmark deal with WTO and in combination with ITC and World Bank. In March this year, the DG of WTO came to Nigeria to launch the program support for Nigeria. I recall that some of the program supports include the Standard Trade Development Facility, digital trade, e-commerce, and different capacity enhancement programs, as well as a major support for the country to develop its first ever trade intelligence unit. We also launched the Enhanced National Trade Facilitation Committee. That committee will be looking at, I'm the co-chairman of that committee with the CG of Customs. What that committee will be doing is to see how to remove both technical and non-technical barriers to trade, to improve our exports and our export earnings. We signed so many bilateral agreements. We've heard about the ETIP agreement we signed with the UK. We ratified the agreement with the UAE, and we're currently engaging in so many other bilateral and multilateral and plurilateral agreements, including the African Continental Free Trade negotiations. And we are currently also trying to digitize the export permit process for the oil and gas sector and the entire export permits and licensing for all other exports. In the area of industrialization, we are currently working to stimulate industries sector by sector, starting with the cotton, textile, and garment sector. We are looking at how to increase the production of cotton by farmers, how the industries, the ginneries, the textile and garments factories can become reactivated. And so in this regard, we are partnering with a world-class organization and Afrexim, looking at injecting at least $3.5 billion into the cotton, textile, and garment value chain. We've had multiple stakeholder engagements. We're also having engagements with state governors and about to sign the MOU for that to start. We're also catalyzing the automotive sector. We've had multiple engagements and currently finalizing the MOU agreements between the component part manufacturers, raw material producers, and the vehicle manufacturers. Our target is to produce the first made-in-Nigeria vehicle by December this year. Even if it is one keke napep that we produce in Nigeria or one motorcycle, Nigeria has to be known as a manufacturer of automobiles. We have the market, we have the technology, we have the skill, and we have the willingness of the sector, the participants, and the consumption base. So there is no reason why we can't produce our own vehicles, and we're about to do that. We're also trying to facilitate and catalyze so many other free zones and especially economic zones. and coming up with our industrialization strategies that will support the industrial policy of the country to stimulate and revitalize industrialization. When we do all of the things I have mentioned, we will achieve President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's agenda of increasing non-oil exports and stimulating export substitution or import substitution by and increasing the FX reserve of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma. I think it's a good way to start this conversation. You would agree with me that the FX fluctuation is a big issue, and trade facilitation is something that would, of course, be on the front burner for you at your office. We've seen business people complain about how this is affecting custom levies and all of that. What more moves are you making, or what sort of conversations are you having to make sure that trade is more easier, ease of doing business? What more are you doing around that?
Okay, so many things actually. One, I talked about digital trade platform that we are working on. And this digital trade support we are getting from WTO and the World Bank. That includes increasing the digital infrastructure, especially around commerce, and building the e-commerce platform that will enable SMEs to trade. Then the logistics and the entire value chain for trading is what we're now trying to de-risk. The fastest and best way that we identified is to create the one-stop export promoting centers, or what you call the export processing centers. Now, we have also gone into very advanced stages of negotiations with Afrexim Bank to develop some of these centers. Those centers will test, process, package, and carry out all the necessary documentations. We have all the multi-agents who are responsible or who inspect and certify all exports for export. We have the customs, NAFDAC, SORN, and NDLA, Federal Produce Inspection Agency, all of them quarantine services within one facility that will ensure that all the produce meet the standards for the exports. You know, one of the problems we have is major export rejection. At least 75% of our harvest is rejected. So we have, first of all, we have 75% post-harvest losses, and then the ones that make it eventually for export, we have a huge export rejection. Now, with this export processing center, we will have a drop in export rejection and an increase in our export volume. Now, that's one. Then now look at the entire logistics itself of moving your goods from the export processing center to the port. That's where the Enhanced National Trade Facilitation Committee is then going to play a role to identify all the factors that are responsible for all the trade and non-trade barriers that are making the cost of export very high and sometimes delaying the export process itself. So this committee is charged, ready to look at why we have multiple roadblocks. Why don't we have enough trailers and vehicles to move goods? Why is the rail system not functioning properly? Are the roads connected properly to our markets, to our farm gates, to our warehouses, to the export processing centers? And do we have, the agility of the federal government, the state government, the local government to support the entire export process itself, including the documentations and everything that is necessary and needed to ensure that exports happen and move seamlessly and efficiently? So with all of this I have mentioned, we can now promise Nigerians that very soon we will see our export time reduce. The customs have also launched a number of programs to support the export facilitation drive that the ministry is handling. And I am very sure that very soon we will have seamless and more efficient export process for the exporters.
Okay, let me also ask you this. I remember I attended the International Intra-Africa Trade Fair, I beg your pardon, in South Africa at the time, and the last one was in Egypt. And the discussion is for Africa to come together. You've touched on AfTA. Well, my question really would be, Honorable Minister, do you think that Nigeria is ready to take advantage of this market. You remember what happened with AGOA. Many are saying that this might just happen the same way. Are we competitive enough? Our standards?
Well, I can assure you that under this administration, it cannot be like AGOA. AFTA is here to stay. All countries in Africa, even around the world, are gearing up to take advantage of AFTA. And the question is, are we ready? Are we competitive enough? The answer is no, we're not. We're not competitive enough, but we are ready. We are ready mentally, but the competitive environment is not yet in place, and that is what we're working on. This is where we're talking about all the support that we're getting to facilitate trade and all that we're doing to increase investment in industrialization, to make our industries to produce at a cost competitive, to produce cost competitively, to export cost competitively, to be the lowest cost producer in Africa. We can do it. The president has liberalized electricity generation, removing it from the exclusive to the concurrent list now, so states can produce. One of the policies around having clusters and industrial hubs is for us to be able to supply and provide infrastructure to industrial hubs, including, of course, the electricity, road network, sewage, water, shared services. All of that will drop the cost of production. And I also talked about all we're doing to ensure that we can facilitate export in the export processing centers to reduce the cost of export, the time, the delay, to make us much more competitive. And then finally, access to finance. We've tried to create multiple vehicles, multiple platforms to increase capital formation for the private sector. We have debt capital coming from BOI, and now we've started creating models that will attract more private capital, private equity, with the diaspora fund that we're trying to launch. That will increase access to funding for the private sector directly by all investors. So with the three things and all these multiple things that we're working on, we will see our industries produce more competitively, have greater access to their raw materials, and have the low-cost environment to be able to compete in after.
That sounds really good. Almost finally, Honorable Minister, the Skill Up Artisan Program, I read about it. I think I'm interested in that, designed to boost productivity and earnings of artisans. Can you tell us more about this and how far you've gone with that?
Yes, so as part of our industrial policy to increase competitiveness, apart from the machineries and the industrial strategy, having the right workforce is also very necessary to catalyze industrialization. Recently, we have had so many engagements with the industries. They complained of a skills deficit in their different industries. And so we made them a promise that we will develop and train the right workforce to take advantage of the vacancies that we have in these various industries. Now, apart from that, we also noticed that our artisans that make up the bulk base of our employable population are also not properly trained and can't even take advantage of informal job opportunities that are present. What are these informal job opportunities, or what are these artisan opportunities? Our plumbers are not certified and trained properly, so we can't even compete internationally. We end up hiring artisans from different countries because we want to have a certain quality to the finished jobs that we do. Our carpenters, electricians, name them, construction workers, masons, even our tailors, different artisans in that group haven't had the opportunity to have formal training to give them the opportunity to produce with international best practice. So when we identify that this is a huge labor market and the president has promised 50 million jobs, these 50 million jobs is going to come to all Nigerians. So we started mobilizing both skilled and unskilled labor workforce, training them, and then giving them certification. I can't remember the last time the trade test certificate was given to an artisan. I remember my grandfather used to have a trade test certificate that was given to him by City and Guilds. City and Guilds stopped certifying for whatever reason, and now we brought back City and Guilds to come and certify our artisans. Now our plumbers will have a City and Guilds certificate. Our carpenter will have a City and Guilds certificate. Our tailors will have a City and Guilds certificate. It increases the confidence of your employers and also makes them more competitive to work anywhere in the world. On the back of SUPA, you also hear about our National Talent Export Program, where we are now identifying that other countries also have vacancies in the same skills that Nigeria has vacancies in. But we have a lot of people that we are training, and the countries have approached us and say if we have excess capacity and excess manpower, that they're also interested in taking some of these resources and manpower to fill vacancies in their countries. And so that's how NATEP was bettered. That's the National Talent Export Program. Just yesterday, we signed an agreement with a major Kuwaiti national company that is looking at filling the vacancies in construction in the Middle East, in the whole of the GCC country. And that's also a major opportunity for job creation for our citizens. And this, we promise, we will only take people who have the requisite skills, who have gone through all the documentation process that NATEP will provide to them, and then they can go over there as legal citizens with the full rights and the privilege that they deserve for the kind of skills that they have. So they go there as honorable Nigerians, not to go with their visiting visa, get to another country, and start trying to dodge law enforcement agency and become an illegal migrant. Nigeria is bigger than that. We have the best talent in the world, which has been attested to. So the best thing we can do is to provide a platform for those who want to work locally or internationally to have the opportunity and the platform to do so. And that's one of the mandates and one of the offerings that the president is giving to the people. It's never been done before. The other thing on the back of NATEP we're doing is for those who don't even have the opportunity to go, because there are no vacancies that can attract physical talent, or that there are vacancies for outsourcing, we're also providing opportunities for people to work here and also earn in dollars. The same dollar you would earn if you were working there physically, you're also earning it here. And we signed an agreement with an MOU with a major corporation that is going to outsource 50,000 jobs in the first instance to Nigerians in the area of IT, telemarketing, telesales, and all of that. All of this we're doing to ensure that we create the job mandate that the president has given to us to create. And Nigerians are talented. The only problem is that previously they didn't have the platform, they didn't have the opportunity to access jobs, both locally and internationally. And then finally, we decided also, having identified that there are lots of vacancies in different industries and different corporations and companies, and since we regulate industries and we talk to them, for all these talents that we are creating, that we're developing, that it was important for us to have the National Job Center. When I say National Job Center, I'm not talking about Ministry of Labor. I'm actually saying the renewed job center, where the manufacturers are telling us that they have this vacancy and they want this talent. And because we can see, we make opportunity, that vacancy available to Nigerians globally to apply. So you can liken it to Jobberman, but it's not Jobberman. This is a platform where all citizens can apply to whatever vacancy that has been provided by the manufacturers. And then we, right now, the SMIDAN is actually facilitating the job center. We can sit and work with the applicants on their CV, on producing their CV, on interviewing skills, giving them small training on how to assess jobs, how to even make the applications, and then match-make them between the applicants and those who are looking for the jobs. And where there are skills that are needed by these manufacturers or by the sectors or the different sectors, and we can train them using SUPA, or we can provide them using the business process outsourcing, then we do that, we make that to happen seamlessly. So it's kind of a cohesive environment to create jobs facilitate employment and ensure that people have jobs that are befitting and that are dignifying to their requisite skills and to their qualifications. And that is the mandate that was given to us by the President. And I'm happy to announce that we are achieving it. So far, SUPA is training 100,000 people already. We received applications of more than 500, 500,000 people. Nationwide, we did accreditation, selected 100,000 to start because we just have a limited trade test area. When we create more curriculum and more trade test area, we will take the remaining people and we keep on training them. So currently, we are training across all cities where we have centers in the country, and we will have the first 100,000 certified and trained artisans in 6 months' time.
Brilliant stuff. Now, Honorable Minister, before I let you go, we've talked about investments. You've given us the figures. We've talked about trade facilitation and all. But many will say, when will this start to translate to prosperity for all Nigerians? You know what is happening. Inflation is on the high side. Minimum wage issues are still being discussed. Now, do you think, how long do we wait for this transition and Nigerians will start to feel the impact of all of these positives?
Yeah, so we're already feeling the impact. It's already started. The environment is a lot better. The sentiments are more positive. We see a lot of positive sentiment and optimism from investors. The funds that are committed are translating. Some of them have started coming in. For every investment that comes in, it comes with jobs that are being created. In the free zone, oil and gas free zone, the export processing zones, we see lots of jobs being created. And that was why we decided to have the job center to inform Nigerians of opportunities within those sectors or within those areas. These opportunities, people are already getting employed through the platforms that we have. People are already getting employed through NATEP and are they're getting their training before they can start earning dollars. We've identified people to export for the talent export program. It is already taking effect. There is always a foundational period of phase in every process. We are in the foundation, we built the foundation, so you will still see the building rise, and you're going to now see, in fact, the question should have been, when will the masses see this effect that we're talking about? So it's in the second half of, or maybe in the second half of this year that we'll start, reaping, or more people will start benefiting from what we're saying. I just mentioned that 100,000 people will be trained. It takes 6 months to train them. At the end of 6 months, they get jobs, they get paid higher, and they will start earning more. So already they've started benefiting. But you see the effect, like we say, at least by the end of the second half of the year.
And we hope to have you in to discuss and, of course, do some monitoring and evaluation. Dr. Doris Uzoka-Anite, Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. Thank you so much for joining us live from Abuja. A repeat of this broadcast again will be on TVC Live, 11:30 again on Saturday. Thank you so much. That's after airing today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Tolu, and have a nice day too.